Hey, this is Jeremy Wagner from Broken Hope, and you are watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Richard Metal Fan Interviews. This is episode number 99. And today's guest, we're talking with Jeremy Wagner. Jeremy Wagner is the guitarist for the band Broken Hope, death metal band from Chicago, Illinois that's been around since the late 80s. Today we're going to be talking to him about what got him into metal, pretty much guitar influences, as well as the history of Broken Hope. So, without further ado, let's go talk to Jeremy. So what's up, guys? I'm
Yep,
here with Jeremy Wagner from the almighty Broken Hope. So how are you doing today, Jeremy?
I'm doing good, thanks. How are you, Richard?
Can't complain, can't complain. So basically this format is I
Yeah,
want to
good.
do a quick rundown of your catalog as well as your journey as an artist from where you start to now. But before we go into that, I want to dive right back into the very beginning.
Sure.
What were like the first bands that got you into metal? What made
Yeah.
you want to start playing guitar?
Um, I started getting into metal right around 12 years old. I had just discovered Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance had come out, and Iron Maiden, Peace of Mind, and from there, at the time, being a young kid, going into my teens, metal just fascinated me from there. Went from Priest and Maiden. Went from that into Armored Saint and Crocus and bands like I just recall Pile Driver, um, this Canadian band Kick Axe. I like them a lot, and I was always just jamming on all those bands. And then uh, right around 1985 is when I started getting into heavier music, thrash and everything. So um, uh, all the big four bands, Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax, I started picking up everything they had, and um, it just grew and grew. And it's really uh, the album Ride the Lightning. When you ask the question, what would inspire me to play guitar after getting into metal, when I had Kill 'Em All, and I had never heard anything like that. And then when I got Ride the Lightning, it just it blew me away and touched me in a way musically, that it not only blew my mind, but it like literally made me go, I want to do that. I want to be in a band that plays music like that. And I already had a guitar. I had begged my mom for a guitar for years, and right around age 12, when I was starting to get into metal, my mom got me an acoustic guitar. And for me being a kid, I was like, that's great, fine and dandy, but I wanted an electric guitar, but my mom wouldn't get me one right away. She wanted me to make sure I was really into a guitar, and I was going to take lessons and stuff. And like a parent, like, get the kids something they beg for, but they like really I want to make sure my kid's going to actually use it. So frankly, I didn't use the guitar, and I didn't really do anything with it till that right around 85, after Ride the Lightning. That again, I was like, this is what I want to do. So I traded that acoustic guitar in for my first electric guitar, which was a Kramer Striker. Had like one pickup. It was red, and um, that was my first guitar, electric guitar. So from there, I got more and more serious, because from 85 to 86, the whole landscape of thrash and music changed considerably. We had Rain and Blood came out, Master of Puppets. I was jamming on those hardcore. Peace Cells, I was really into Dark Angel, Darkness Descends. That was like one of my favorite albums. They really had a huge impact on me. And then from there, uh, between being a sophomore and a senior in high school, I practiced and played guitar religiously, and then started trying to form bands in high school. So I had a couple of bands before Broken Hope that I put together. Joe Thiacek, our original singer for Broken Hope, he was a schoolmate of mine, and we rode the bus together, lived in the same neighborhood and all that stuff. And he was into all the bands I was, and he was also into bands that um, were more different genres. Like he was also into punk and hardcore, so he was turning me on to more punk and hardcore bands as well. And we were both like, let's form a band. So we had a couple of fledgling bands before Broken Hope. Again, just high school bands with other guys. We had a band called Decimation, and we had a band called for a minute called Vile Demise. And then when we hooked up with our drummer Ryan Stanek, who became a longtime drummer for Broken Hope, we first started as Crypt. That was the band. And then shortly thereafter, we got more permanent members, and we like between Joe Ryan and I, we renamed the band Broken Hope. That would have been like 1988 when Broken Hope formed. So we were just high school kids, and I just graduated high school, and then right after that, we were doing our first shows and did our first demo. Not long after that. But that's kind of the Reader's Digest version of how I got into metal, what I was into at the time, and then the evolution. And it's also worth noting that by the time Ryan, Joe, and I got together, and we had those first fledgling bands, I discovered death metal, and that was another huge turning point for me. I was already in the mindset that I want to play heavy metal, heavy music, and be a guitarist and lyricist as a teenager. And I already was on that track. But then when I discovered death metal, then things really changed. Like when death came out with Scream Bloody Gore, Leprosy, I started discovering all these other bands, and then that the whole genre was building up more and more. And Earache Records back then too, they all the titles they had were imports. They didn't have US distribution, so I'd go to these record stores that carried import albums, and so I started getting my hands on Carcass, Morbid Angel, Napalm Death, and all that stuff. And then it was just like the heavier, more extreme, the better. And that's kind of like how my influences, inspiration, and everything affected my songwriting, and what Broken Hope was gonna do.
Right. And tell me about like making the debut album Swamped in Gore. I think I put up there with like one of the best death metal debuts, along with like Dawn of Possession by Immolation, Diabolical Gore. I don't know, just like so many debut albums. I feel like they have like that charm. What was like the thought process making Swamped in Gore?
Swamped in Gore came about when we had our first demo that I had mentioned to you. We had recorded. When we did that demo, the 4 songs on there were a mixture of influences from both thrash and death metal. and they've been original songs we had been sitting on, for maybe a year. We never played cover songs or anything. We were always writing original music. So we decided that the time was right to do our first demo. And this is all relevant to how we got into Swamped and Gore. And at the time, Immolation, who you just mentioned, I'm really good friends with Ross and Bob from Immolation.
Interviewed Ross
To this day,
months ago.
Oh, he's an awesome dude. He's like family to me. And Ross really helped Broken Hope early on. Both of our bands formed in 1988, and I connected with Ross right around I'd say I think it was late 88, 89, and Immolation already had a couple of demos out, and they've been tape trading all over the world and all this stuff. So when we were getting ready to release our first demo, Ross was really awesome. He sent me I almost said email. He sent me a letter. There was no email back then. He sent me this nice letter that said, "Hey man, I want to help get Broken Hope's name out there. And what you need to do is you need to send your demo to these fanzines." And he gave me a whole list of fanzines around the world to send the demo to. So once we did that, we were, getting demo reviews and mail from all over the world, the underground tape trading scene and all that stuff. So after that demo came out, I was constantly writing and writing and writing music, and I wanted to continue. I wanted to move on to heavier stuff. So the evolution between that first demo and what became our second demo. The second demo was a lot more ferocious. I'd say, pure death metal. There was none of the flat thrash influence anymore. And it was on that second demo we started getting a couple record label offers. So we signed with a label called Grindcore International in 1990. And when we signed that deal, by that time, we probably had about 15 original songs under our belt. So Swamped and Gore, the title track, was one we had started, bashing on and whatnot, from like right around 1990. And all the other songs on that album just fell into place. It was like boom, boom, boom. We were teenagers, always jamming as much as possible together at rehearsal and putting new material together, being pretty prolific. When I wasn't jamming with the band, I'd be at home with my amp and guitar, and I had nothing else going on, and it's all I wanted to do. So that album was like, the material for that album was written fairly quickly. And when we finally signed to Grindcore International Records, we already had an album's worth of material. So shortly thereafter, after signing, we went into the recording studio and did that album. And the whole process of recording the album was really exciting because, one, we're signed to a label, that was like a little dream come true for us. Two, our guitar player, Brian Griffin, back then, he was a recording studio engineer at a local studio called Wave Digital Studios. And it was actually an early digital studio. So before that, everyone was recording on 2-inch tape reels and stuff. So that studio was sort of like really modern, cutting edge, because they had this all this new digital equipment, the Sakai digital studio that they made that had they recorded on like just like 8mm videotapes. That's what the digital recordings were on. So so we had this new technology we were working with, and we were really fortunate because Brian, being a full-time engineer at the studio, got us all kinds of recording time, especially late at night. We could record for hours and hours. The budget for the album, from the label was really minuscule. So if we didn't have Brian and his access to the studio and all that time, the recording time, I don't know how the album would have sounded had we not, one, had the time to really record the album properly, and two, to be in a digital studio at the time was really something. And I think, like, I don't know, if you look on Wikipedia or some of the Metal Archive sites, it also says Swamp Thing Gore is the first digital death metal album. And I think between Brian Griffin's production and, again, having the luxury of having a lot of quality time to do the songs right is what made Swamp Thing Gore more special, just in terms of, audio quality and the whole package, if you will. But yeah, it's just one of my proud babies, if you will, in the Broken Hope catalog. And last year was the 30th anniversary of that album coming out as well. And it's just, I say it all the time. It's like, seems like yesterday, I can remember recording it, writing the songs, getting it out and all that good stuff. It's like time, as cliche as it sounds, time flies, but it really does, man. It just seems like I was, 21 years old doing our first record, and I'm 52 now.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of 30-year anniversary, next year is going to be the 30-year anniversary of the second album, The Bowels of Repugnance. What I wanted to ask is, with the debut album, you usually have your entire life and career to write it. Did you feel like pressure to follow up Swamp Thing Gore going into The Bowels of Repugnance?
There was a little pressure, not anything overwhelming, but the pressure to follow up a debut with an even more killer sounding and ferocious album, is important to any band. The second album's so crucial, and bands get hung up on that. We didn't feel pressure that we wouldn't deliver. We knew we would, but we were also now on Metal Blade Records. When Swamp Thing Gore came out, it sold really well, and within like 6 months, Metal Blade Records stepped in and picked us up from Grindcore International, re-released Swamp Thing Gore, and then our first, contracted album to do for Metal Blade was The Bowels of Repugnance. So there was a little bit of pressure there, but the Bowels album is really special to me as well, because there was an attitude that I had. I can remember when I wrote that album. When I wrote it, I wrote all the riffs, put the songs together, and then Ryan Stanek and I would, flesh out what would be the actual songs, and the rest of the guys came in to do their stuff. So, and I also write all the lyrics for the band. So to that end, there's pressure on me to get songs written and get the lyrics done, but the actual process of writing the songs, when I think about it, came really easy, because after Swamp Thing Gore, Brian Griffin and I were roommates living in a attic apartment in a town called Zion, Illinois. And I'm like, 22 years old, 23, and I was totally pissed off at the world. I was always broke, had girlfriend troubles, just hated where I lived, and I was also like just trying to prove a point with Broken Hope, with death metal. Like, we're gonna come out with something that's just gonna rip everyone's head off. So all that anger and angst and shit that I was feeling, I funneled into my guitar, and it's a much more intense album than Swamped in Gore, and you can feel it. And that was all just for me being, again, using uh, young anger and frustration to just write really sick, heavy, ferocious riffs, and same with the lyrics and whatnot. And I wanted to prove a point too, with Bowles, like, hey, we're not fucking around here. We're Broken Hope is here to stay. And those songs just came out of me. I mean, I just remember writing one song after another, in a short amount of time, and boom, we followed it up. So you had Swamped in Gore come out in 91, and then by 93, Bowels of Repugnance was coming out. So we never stopped the Broken Hope machine from going forward. Again, constantly writing, constantly playing shows, and just constantly pushing that attitude of, we're a young band, second album coming out, but we're here to prove, we're here to stay. And again, just delivering our own brand of, death metal. And that's kind of how that all came together. And then we went on tour. After that album came out, we toured quite extensively. In fact, as you and I are talking today, it's December 23rd, and I just did a Balls of Repugnance related post on social media that went up literally before you and I got on this Zoom. I found some photos in my archive from a date we did in Colorado Springs, Colorado. That was a tour we did with Unleashed, and
Wow.
and the tour, we dubbed the tour the North American Bowel Movement, and that was the name of our tour in support of the Bowels of Repugnance. But yeah, I literally just posted those photos like 15 minutes ago. So just coincidental, you brought up Bowels of Repugnance.
Yeah, I need to check that out, man.
Yeah, it's up there. Yeah, check it out when you can, Richard.
I will. And then moving on to the repulsive conception. What was that like, going from Bowels of Repugnance to repulsive conception?
So after doing all that touring for the Bowels of Repugnance, when we got off tour and we knew we were going to have downtime for a while, as usual, we rehearsed religiously every week, and we were always coming up with new music. And this time, we had a lineup change. We had gotten rid of our old bass player, and we got a new guy. And with the addition of having some new blood in the band, the songwriting opened up a little more musically. So that's when Sean was in the band. Sean actually joined the band after Balls of Repugnance was out and everything. So you figure about he was in the band then around 94, and I had already had a stockpile of riffs and stuff for what would be on Repulsive Conception. So when we got into writing mode, I brought those riffs to the table. And then other members of the band, like Brian Griffin, he was contributing some really great riffs. Sean had some great songs, and so that actually made the songwriting process go quicker. And what we again pedal to the metal. We just kept writing, and by 1995, we had that album. There's a little bit of a change too in the evolution of our songwriting. You know, Swamp and Gore had a certain pacing, if you will, and a certain mood. Also, the songs were uh lengthy. You know, some songs are like 5 minutes long and shit. Um, Bowels of Repugnance, much shorter songs, like just in your face, bam, bam, bam. You know, it's kind of like um, Broken Hopes, Rain and Blood, if you will, just in terms of just shorter songs that, you know, just punched you in the face. With Repulsive Conception, we had a mixture of kind of all the elements of the first two albums, where we had, you know, slower songs, slower pace songs. Like if you took a song like Swamped in Gore or Bag Full of Parts, we had songs like let me think, like the title track, Dilation and Extraction, you know, was a little more mid-paced and heavy. And then we have other tunes that were real just fast little grinders that punched you. We also, you know, we had instrumentals and segue stuff in there as well. So one thing that sticks out too is lyrically, being the guy that wrote pretty much all the lyrics for the band, Joe Fiacek on that album, I would always give him lyrics, and it was up to him at his discretion to put the lyrics to whatever song musically that we had. And I remember him giving me lyrics back all the time saying, not enough words. I want you to, you know, double the lyrics. And I was like, Jesus H, these are going to be the longest written lyrics we've ever had. And like Joe wanted to sing over every riff basically on Repulsive Conception. So that was on the lyrical side, that was a whole nother process. But it was a great exercise for me to you know, take existing material and add even more content and tell more of a story. And you know, until Joe approved of the homework I turned in, you know, and then yeah, he just took that and used it wherever he wanted. So to that end, there was more of a group collaboration when it came to songs, both, you know, musically, and Joe and I more on a collaborative level with me writing the lyrics, but Joe dictating, you know, how much content he wanted, and, you know, even what subject matter and all that good stuff. So and then that album came out 1995, and we toured extensively on that. We had some great tours, and just really great times. Also, what was special was we did our first video ever for MTV, and that was for a song Into the Necrosphere. And it was a cool
video too.
It was thank you. It was a cool experience to do a video. We were all excited because, wow, you know, we're actually doing an actual music video, and you know, the Metal Blade Records is paying for it, and we got with these guys. But a fact that some people might not know is, if you see the video, it's pretty, the actual concept and the story on film is close to the lyrics. The lyrics are about like this deranged you know, mortician guy who has this power to do the way he does these bizarre autopsies, and the way he does it allows him to enter this realm of the dead, this world of the dead, the necrosphere. And when we were figuring out who do we cast to be the, crazy, diabolically gifted, mortician autopsy guy, it was Joe Thiacek who said to me, "Hey, Wagner, get your dad to play that part. He's crazy." Because my dad always got on really well with all the other band members, and my dad is a really funny guy, and he's just he could be a little bit wacky. So I approached my dad and said, "Hey, the band wants you to play this main character in our first music video." And my dad instantly said, "All right, cool. That sounds like fun." So my dad is in our first music video, Into the Necrosphere. So that was special for me, of course. Personally, it's my dad, but it was a lot of fun. And that video also got us a lot more attention around that time. So that whole Repulsive Conception era was really great time.
Awesome. And then going forward to next album, Loathing, and I know a very underrated album. Like, I don't think really nobody really talks about this album, and I know this year's also the 25th anniversary of that. What was like the thought process going into this album?
So Loathing, I distinctly remember we wrote that album in a couple of different locations. When I say locations, jam spot locations. We had one place we had been rehearsing at for a while, which had been the studio, Wave Digital Studios, where we had done the first two albums. And thanks to Brian Griffin, again, we used to be able to rehearse there for free all the time. So by 1996, that studio was, I believe it was around that time it was sold to a different guy, and then they went out of business. So we were recording and planning to record in a new studio, but also we were figuring out where to rehearse. So we moved around to a few different rehearsal spots. So when we were writing that album, our attitude was no different than the predecessors. When we go in and write, we still maintain that fire and drive to deliver really ferocious and sick Broken Hope brand death metal. But also by that time, musicianship wise, we were always evolving with our skills as guitarists, drummer, vocals, everything. We just always tried to up the ante. So that album is when a little bit more technicality came into place. So like the title track, Siamese Screams, Brian Griffin had written a lot of that song, and it was on a different level. It was like more technical than what Broken Hope's riff writing had been, but still dark and still heavy. And it was just a mixture of just some new ideas that like we hadn't done musically before, but new ideas in a good way, in a brutal way. And I think that album, we spent a little more time like working on the songwriting. It was really the quality control, if you will, was really high. We always had a quality control level. Richard, basically the quality control has always been someone brings something, a riff to the table, and it'd be like Joe or whoever would be like, "That riff sucks. Go you go back. You got something cool there, but you're going to need to work on that. So that was everyone's attitude, was to do better and better. So but again, we wanted to up the ante. So I think that album, it's one of my favorite albums, and it just showcases, I think, the band's improvements, as musicians. And we also, the lyrics did a complete turnaround, where you had Repulsive Conception and Joe wanting super long lyrics to sing over everything. This time he had pulled back on that, and we wanted to have lyrics that were streamlined, still told a great story, whether they were, really over the top and sick. We still wanted to make sure that the lyrics stood out as well. And but overall, Loathing, I think at the time, was like one of our finest pieces of our discography at the time. Not to mention, Wes Benscoter's cover artwork was like the best thing I had ever seen. Wes had done the Repulsive Conception album cover, and I loved working with him. And since then, he's done, like, I think 4 or 5 of our album covers and other Broken Hope designs. And I'm really good friends with Wes Benscoter to this day. He'll be doing our next album cover as well. But at the time, like, when we saw that cover artwork, we're like, holy shit, this is like the sickest artwork we've ever had. So the whole package, from the cover artwork to the songs themselves, the music, the lyrics, and the attitude, was just a new level. I'd say a level up from anything we had ever done before,
Yeah. And then, of course, the last album before y'all broke up in 2001 was Grotesque Blessing. So what was the thought process of that? And did you kind of knew you wanted, it was kind of like almost like the end of the band for a little while?
At the time, I didn't, you're talking like 1999. So at the time, things were really chaotic in the band. I didn't necessarily see the band, was going to go on a hiatus, shortly after the album came out. Well, when I say shortly after, like 2000, right around 2001, 2002, that's when we officially said the band is done for now. We're going on hiatus. In 99, things were tumultuous within the band itself. Brian Stanek was gone. Sean had left the band. He wanted to pursue active rock, and he went on to do the active rock thing and not do death metal at all. So it's like Joe, Brian Griffin, and me. So we had vowed to, hey, we're gonna keep going. We'll figure out who's going to be a drummer, who's going to be playing bass, and we did what we always did. We just kept on writing. Brian Griffin and I were roommates again. We rented a house together, and there was a studio built on the property of that house we rented. And in fact, that's a studio that Brian ran for some time. It was like, basically it was his studio, and he was doing other band projects out of there, and just became this full-time, studio owner, manager guy. In fact, actually Repulsive Conception had been done in that same studio. Also, those albums were done on analog. So we had done the digital thing, we went back
Wanted to go
to,
to the old school way.
yeah, we went back to analog. So so the plan was, uh, as always, hey, let's keep writing and get an album out and all that stuff. So Brian and I, we wrote the music on Grotesque Blessings. Brian wrote a lot of it, and the songs on the album are, some are super technical, like Wolf Among Sheep. That track is like super tech. And my approach to writing riffs has always been not super technical. I'm more about the power of the riff. I like to have a really good hooky riff, just uh like I always say, the type of riff that makes you want to smash your face through a cinder block. It's like that heavy. So, but I also love speed. Like I'm a huge fan of grind. So like most everyone that knows me knows I worship Terrorizer, World Downfall. So I've always mixed it up with like extreme blasting and super heavy riffs and moody riffs, and but always trying to do something new as well, Richard. Like always wanting to offer new ideas and whatnot. So it was like two camps. There was a Brian Griffin camp of writing. He'd write all his stuff on his own. I'd write all my riffs and songs for the album, and then each of us would work with a drummer. So during that Grotesque Blessings era, that was the songwriting approach. Brian would write, I would write, we'd get together with the drummer, do our songs. Same thing with lyrics, me writing the lyrics, giving them to Joe, and then Joe, placing the lyrics to the songs he liked, so that was the same old, same old. But one of the issues we had that is sort of, or one of a few of the that I would say are root causes to the band getting ready to fall apart, was after Ryan, we couldn't find a drummer who was like, either we'd find drummers who we jam with and then they just weren't that good. They were just didn't have those skills. Like it was, hard to find a drummer where we were from up in the northern burbs of Chicago who had those skills. Ryan Stanek was such a sick drummer. So to be on that level, you had to really be a sick drummer. So we got a drummer that eventually, who could play that stuff. But again, another drawback was he didn't want to be in a band full time, like go on tour or anything. So we did use a drummer for Grotesque Blessings for the studio. But he was never a full-time member, basically a hired hand. And then same with bass. We couldn't find anybody who, the guys who wanted to be in the band full-time that we auditioned were adequate, but nothing phenomenal. The guys we did find who were really sick bassists, same thing, Richard. They just were like, oh, well, I don't want to be in a band full-time. I have a job and I got kids or whatever. So that, if you look at the liner notes of that album, there's like a handful of different bass players who, well, basically were just studio bass players who did all the bass stuff. And then tour time came though, and that was a problem because we have guys on the album who filled in the roles of drums and bass. But again, these were guys who were just hired to do so, and they were never going to tour. So we had to hire people to go on tour, basically. And when and we're getting ready to go on a North American tour with Malevolent Creation, and they were headlining. We were supporting them, And like right before the week we're getting ready to leave for tour, Joe Fiacek actually quit the band.
Damn.
Uh, yeah, that was like a shock. That the day I got that call, he was just like, hey, look, this band, we can't get our shit together with a proper lineup. Um, Also, the booking the booking agent doing the tour, um, believe it or not, was Jamie Josta of Hatebreed.
No shit.
He was given, yeah, we had worked with all these other
Yeah.
agencies before, um and we had a manager at the time, and she was like, hey, Jamie Josta is working for, I think it was Bay Ridge Talent.
Never knew he was a booker.
Yeah, Jamie had done like local booking up in the New England where he's from. I knew that, but he started working with, again, I think it was Bay Ridge Talent. Bay Ridge Talent's like the guys who managed Typo Negative and some other bands. So they had this agency they started, and Jamie was working for them. So as Jamie was booking stuff, a lot of dates were like, before we were getting ready to leave, we're still like up in the air, not confirmed and stuff. And uh that's not yeah, that's not good when you're going on tour.
Right.
But Jamie, to his credit, I love Jamie Josta. He's a friend of mine to this day. Just great guy. And, he's a fledgling booking agent. So he's doing his best, but a lot of stuff was just like still waiting for confirmations on certain dates. And we're getting ready to leave. And, when you do a tour too, you want everything booked way in advance. You have proper time to promote the tour and all that stuff. So it was a culmination of internal turmoil with not having a solid lineup, having hired hands filling in again on drums and bass, uncertainty about tour dates, and just other mismanagement stuff. And we're all in our 20s. It's still like, even going with getting a fifth album under our belt, we're still like naive as hell about certain things, because with the business. So Joe, he, to his credit, I think he was really smart by dropping the hammer and just saying, I'm done. This band, needs to get its shit together. And I'm sick of, we're at our fifth album now. And up until this point, everything's been done so professionally and right. And I don't want to be, riding around North America in a Ryder truck for 4 or 5 weeks with stuff just half-assed. So to his credit on that side, that was a smart move to make. The fact that he quit, that was a shock. But he was also at that time, like, thinking of his future. I think he was engaged. I know he got married shortly after that. And the only thing that sucked was it happened right before we were leaving for this tour. So Joe and us, we parted ways. That very week, we got a guy to fill in on vocals, and we went on that tour. And that was like the worst tour I'd ever done in my friggin' life. It was just hell. The people we had filling in, for vocals, drums, and bass, they all were doing the best that they could. The drummer was just, actually, the one guy, he was pretty terrible. He just kept effing up. songs and shit when we play live, and our vocalist and bass player who filled in, they were really good, but you know, it's it despite that, it didn't feel like Broken Hope, you know. And again, having shit booked at the last minute while you're on tour sucks. So like you do shows that weren't promoted at all, and you'd be playing to, 10 people, and just like, yeah, it was like effing sucked, man. It was terrible. So when we came off of that tour, um, even me, I like, Mr. Broken Hope. I'm like, Broken Hope's my baby. I live for it. And I was like done. I'm like, fuck this. I don't want to. This was such a bad experience, and everything that's happened with the lineup and everything. Just, I don't want to do this again. But a little time went by shortly thereafter, and then we got this offer to do a European tour with Macabre, and it was Macabre, Severe Torture, Die-Apocalypse, Writer, and Broken Hope. And by that time, enough months had passed that we hadn't thrown in the towel on Broken Hope yet. At that point, we just were like, we got to take a break, and and figure this shit out until we have a lineup that makes sense and is going to be permanent. So that European tour opportunity came up, and by then we had a really awesome drummer. This guy, Jeff Baumgartner, he was really great, and we still had the same bass player we had on the North American tour, and the same vocalist, and also Richard.
Yeah.
So having a sick drummer made all the difference, but having the guys who had gone through that tour and had time to, really be acclimated to Broken Hope made things better. So we agreed to do the European tour with a lot more confidence, and in a properly promoted and professionally run tour. And we did that tour, and it was fantastic. Then we came home. I started writing material, even, back that you're talking like 2001. I was writing material that for what would be the next album, but there was no next album again for 10 years. And so some of that material from then would be on what became Omen of Disease in 2012. But I think it was in 2002, if I'm not mistaken, while writing and getting, trying to get Broken Hope as a solid permanent entity that was going to continue kicking ass. We were still having problems because there was still issues with, the guys that had filled in, and the guys who, were the newer guys, had their own ideas and their own, I don't know, direction in life that just didn't agree with us. So finally, Brian Griffin and I were just like, until this is really right, and we got a lineup that's permanent, and it's really the best quality people, not just personality wise. Chemistry of personalities is always important to have in bands, but and nothing's ever perfect. You can't always have personalities that are gonna mesh, and also with phenomenal musicians, but that's what we strove for. So it was then, when 2002, when we said, hey, that's it, Broken Hope's, done for now. And like, whatever, we made a statement about it, and then that was when Broken Hope went into hibernation officially by 2002.
All right. And kind of like two questions in one, Jeremy.
Yeah.
During the breakup, were you like in any other bands? And then, of course, what eventually led to to Broken Hope getting back together?
Sure. So after 2002, couple things I was doing was I even in the 1990s, as a writer, I'd been focused on being a professional writer. So when I wasn't doing Broken Hope and writing lyrics and music for Broken Hope, I was writing short stories, writing my first novel, and was really passionate about, being an author, being a writer, and working on my craft all the time. So after 2002, I really focused on that more and more. And I published a couple things in the 90s. And then after 2002, I was publishing more short fiction and even nonfiction articles and stuff. And shopping around my first novel at the time and working on another one. So that took up a lot of my creative time. But I was also always continuing to play guitar every day and keep writing music. So I formed this band during that time called Lupara. And Lupara was like what I would call wasn't death metal. We had like we were tuned down, like Broken Hope has always been tuned to D standard for anyone who cares. And I started playing baritone guitars tuned to B. So I made this band Lupara, which was this down-tuned, just really heavy, sludgy kind of metal band with not, I don't know what vocal style you would call it. It was like one part like sort of hardcore vocals, kind of like borderline Hatebreed meets something, but just with really super heavy doom riffing and whatnot. So that band got a record deal. We did one album just called Lupara. We did an MTV music video. That's when like MTV came back with Headbangers Ball with Jamie Josta hosting Headbangers Ball. And we did this really sick video for a song called No Pity on the Ants. And it had like Mick Thompson of Slipknot was like the main character cast in the video as this psychopathic guy out in the woods who's got all these victims chained up and shit. And it was a really cool video. We actually got they had like a vote for your top 10 metal videos of the year, and they did a countdown like on New Year's Eve, and that video was in the top 10 countdown. And that was pretty cool shit. I mean, I was having fun. I was in a band that was still making music, and had one album and a video out, and did some touring. So I was busy with that. But I'll tell you this, Richard, from 2002 to when we came back, and I'll tell you that next, because that's part of your two-part question. I was constantly hearing from Broken Hope fans, via messages. By this time you had, MySpace and Facebook, and we still had the old school Broken Hope PO box that people have been writing since the 90s too. So I was always getting messages online or mail, fans like, please, bring Broken Hope back. We want to see you. And I was getting that worldwide. And then I was also hearing from booking agents everywhere, from the States, or local promoters to booking agents in Europe and South America and stuff. And any chance Broken Hope will be back? The guys at Maryland Death Fest, back then, any chance Broken Hope come back, do Maryland Death Fest. And it always killed me, you know, because I was like, I really fucking wish Broken Hope was a thing for the fans, for myself. You know, I missed it. And again, Broken Hope's like my baby, you know. I just it meant the world to me. But I would never I learned a hard lesson when we you know split up and called it a day in 2002. I learned a hard lesson about don't ever do anything half-assed, you know. Make it count. Don't compromise. So in my head I was like, I'll never do Broken Hope again unless it's the best musicians, the best quality people. And when I say people who are, you know, mature and really, you know, not fucking head cases, people with personalities that make life in a band enjoyable. And again, I know a lot of bands, that's a tall order. Again, nothing's ever perfect, but I'm just like, if I do it, I want to do it right. So come get around, say, you know, the late 2000s, and I reconnected with Joe and Ryan Stanek and Brian Griffin, and we had a meeting. All of us, we all hadn't seen each other in years, and we're like, we all connected and said, let's get together and talk. And they also had heard all the same things I had for years too. You know, people were telling them, bring Broken Hope back. We miss Broken Hope. And they were all wanting to do it. So we talked about it, and we're, you know, tried to plan to, you know, make Broken Hope return with most of the original members. And we kept in touch, and it was looking like that might happen. Joe and I, because reconnecting for that first meeting, we became friends again because I hadn't seen him in years, and that was really great. And I'm really glad that we did, because Joe, he'd grown up in a lot of ways. And it was like we picked up where we left off, because, you know, again, we were two schoolmates who from the same neighborhood area, who rode a school bus and started Broken Hope together with Ryan, you know, and he's a very important person in my life. So picking up where we left off was great. Seeing Joe again in a better place in life, and again more mature and whatnot, was a beautiful thing. So him and I would hang out. He was in a biker like club and stuff, and like they would do these toy runs like right now, like around Christmas time, and I give them, you know, gift certificates or you know, things that I'd buy to donate for like the biker toy run and all this kind of stuff. And just you know, supported things he was into, and he did the same. It was just like, you know, being friends again. It was great. So him and I talked about Broken Hope, getting back together, and I would even show him stuff from fans, you know, like, dude, the people fucking worship you, Joe, and they want to see you again. And just hammering home like what I discussed in that meeting with the other guys, like this would be great, but it's got to be like you, as many of the original members as we can, and only the, you know, the best musicians too. You know, we want to go on tour and really kick ass live and blah blah blah. So that we're talking about that. And then not long after that, unfortunately, Joe committed suicide. He died, which, like, completely floored me and changed my life. And Richard, I was like, at that point, like, fuck it, it ain't gonna happen. Broken Hope won't. This is a sign or something. Just forget it, you know. And then some time, a little time went by, and then in 2011, I had just released my first novel. I got my first publishing deal, and I wasn't doing Lupara. I was writing full time now, and still doing music. I was at that time doing a grindcore band called Earthburner, which was basically like, you know, terrorizer worship. And Earthburner, the name of the band came from a Broken Hope song title called Earthburner. Oh, wow. So I was doing that with a drummer named Mike Meachek, who is now Broken Hope's longtime drummer. So Mike and I are doing Earthburner. We would fuck around playing Broken Hope songs outside of doing Earthburner stuff. But the goal was like Earthburner was going to be my new extreme metal band, and that's all I wanted to do. And then again, 2011, then a management company and booking agency that are tied together approached me and said, look, people really want Broken Hope, like even more than ever. Joe's dead. You don't realize, and I didn't, they had it hammered in my head. There's all these young generations of new metal fans that worship old school death metal, and fucking, we know promoters everywhere that would love to have Broken Hope. My side was, well, Joe's dead. I just don't know, you know, how to do it without him. Of course, we did Broken Hope without him when he quit the band, and I was forced to, you know, get someone to sing to do these tours and everything. But I was like, I don't know. Joe's dead. Ryan Stanek had basically retired from drumming. He was like doing more of a singer-songwriter thing, playing guitar and writing more like country type of songs and stuff. And he was really doing great with that. He's super talented guy, but it wasn't, you know, Richard, wasn't like I could get him back in the band. The only original guy, if you know, from, when I say original, one of the guys from the old days, 90s, Sean, he was around, and he would said, I'll play bass again, you know. Brian Griffin, I asked him about coming back and doing it, and he wanted to do his main gig only, which was being a tour manager and sound man for Lamb of God, which he'd been doing for a long time, and it was a very important career for him. And he was in a different place, you know, in his life, and was just like, you know, Jerry, appreciate you asking me, but you know, go ahead and you know, go ahead and do it, and you know, make it happen, kick ass. And and Brian was really supportive, even when we were doing our first Return album, Moment of Disease, that would come out in 2012. You know, Brian was like, hey, I'm excited to hear what you guys come up with. So that meant a lot to me, you know, that Brian had like given me that support, giving me that blessing that you know, I'm not going to probably do Broken Hope ever again. I'm not doing it now for sure, but you know, go knock 'em dead, kid. So I said, all right, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I asked Brian properly, because if this is going to happen, as long as Ryan, Brian, and Sean were alive, I wanted to try to, again, get, you know, original guys from the old days. So anyway, it was Sean and me. As I mentioned, I was already jamming with Mike Meachek, this sick-ass drummer he was just a kid, you know, late teens, and he could
Wow.
play every Broken Hope song, every Terrorizer song, and we were doing that grind band Earthburner. So I'm like, Mike, you want to do Broken Hope? Bring it back. Sean will play bass. We just need, you know, another guitar player and a singer. And of course, when it comes to a singer, um, one same mentality I had, Richard, that we had to have like the best person, again, the best vocalist who could do those guttural vocals like Joe did. You know, um, no one can fill Joe's shoes, but they can sure as hell try and deliver the goods. And again, someone who'd been you know, not just personality wise, a cool person, but who also had paid their dues you know, had been in bands. I mean, I talked to um, John Gallagher of Dying Fetus at one point about coming into Broken Hope because we were trying to put the old band back together. And I talked to several. I had a list of several vocalists to come on board and do it, and one of them was Damian Lesky of Gorgasm. And after we went through a few people, Damian was interested. He came out. It was cool because we're all from the Chicagoland area, and Damian at the time was living in Indiana, so he wasn't too far away. So he came up one day for a hang. Then he came back to jam on a list of old Broken Hope songs, and he just killed it. He just fucking killed it. And then we were like, well, we talked amongst ourselves, and then went back to Damien and said, would you like to be in the band and do this? Like, do it. Like, we're coming back, making it official, touring with albums, blah, blah, blah. And he said yes. And to reiterate one other thing I said earlier, you know, it was vital to me to have a lineup that was going to be permanent. I didn't want people coming and going and anything. It was like to have a band of
Be
brothers,
committed.
you know, meant the world to me. And um, uh, yeah, Damien and Mike were absolutely dedicated for the long haul. So we got the band together. We started rehearsing like every, you know, week. We like a list of 30 Broken Hope songs. And then that management company slash booking agency company that came to us, I said, I've got the band back, and we're ready to do this. So next thing I know, we signed management deal, signed with that booking agency. And in 2012, 10 years later, after we had said we're done and going away for a while, we came back and we kicked things off with being direct support to Obituary for a massive North American tour. And then we went to Europe and did a number of festivals. We went from Europe straight to the US into playing Maryland Death Fest for the first time. And then we wrote the new album, Omen of Disease. And when we wrote that album, boom, we were on tour full time, like, you know, from, you know, Europe and the United States and everything. So, yeah, it was really, really great.
Yeah.
And we just have been going ever since.
Yeah, and being as this was the first album since 1999, did you felt like nervous because this was the first album in many years?
A little bit, yeah. It was a little bit. I was like, let's see what people think and whatnot. I wasn't sure what to expect, but you know, right out of the gate, like the fans ate it up. The reviews were great. Sean McCormer at Decibel gave it whatever, 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10 perfect reviews, saying
it's a return to form.
And a good comeback album, if
Incredible,
I have to
you
say.
know. And what's that?
I say it's in my opinion, I think it's one of the best comeback albums
Eh,
of this generation at least for
Oh,
me.
yeah, thank you for that. That it was really important, Richard, that the music, everything, um, was gonna be the best of the best, especially to your point, a comeback album. You know, we talked about how important a second album is in a band's career. Imagine a comeback album after 10 years and the voice of the band, the original vocalist being dead, you know, and what our fans going to think and everything. So we worked our asses off to deliver the best we could with respect to Joe and Ryan and the legacy of the band and to the fans. And we brought Wes Benskoda back. He did the artwork, and it was really just really great.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm and I was really happy to be back, you know.
Yeah.
Still on.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And so Jeremy, the most recent album, Mutilated and Assimilated, I love that. Did you feel like more comfortable now being back in the since the band was back for a few years at this point making this?
That one I felt a lot more confident, and also we had one more significant lineup change. We After Omen of Disease, our bass player and the guitar player we had at the time um actually didn't work out. They left the band, and you know already at this point how I feel about really trying to
Coming and
retain a
going.
permanent lineup. I was like, okay, this sucks, but we saw it coming. After, you know, 2012, we came back, toured our asses off, dropped Omen of Disease the following year. And then after we did all our touring and that cycle was done, those guys were gone. So um, I knew they were going to leave, and I already had a new guitar player, Matt Schlacka, who had been in Chimera. He had already been working with us for a while on the side, and um, Diego Soria from Disgorge, he had just become a great friend, and he's like, I call him the Mexican Cliff Burton, because he's the best bass player I've ever had in the band, and
Wow.
he's dedicated to the bass, like, you know, Steve Vai is dedicated to the guitar. It's just amazing. So in 2013, we got those two guys in, and they've been in the band ever since. So shit, how crazy is this? I just realized talking to you, those guys have been in the band like 10 years now.
Wow.
2013 till 2023 coming up. So I have retained the permanent lineup, the dream lineup, and
Dedicated for the cause, right?
dedicated to the cause, not only highly professional, the best musicians I could hope for, but just personality wise, that like uh they're fucking family to me. They're like my best friends. You know, I love those guys, and um I'm really happier with Broken Hope than I have ever been. And it's been that way for the last 10 years. And I owe a lot of that to my bandmates, you know.
Yeah.
And of course it means the world to me that so many fans embrace Broken Hope in right now in 2022, going into 2023. And the fans are what mean everything to us, and the legacy of Joe and Ryan also mean the world to me. And a big part of what I do with Broken Hope, aside from my passion and love for, again, my baby Broken Hope, part of that is honoring and carrying on Joe and Ryan's legacies. You know, they're not here, but the three of us were the founding fathers of Broken Hope, you know, as teenagers. And so while I'm alive, walking the planet, and still being able to play guitar and do Broken Hope, I carry their spirit along with me as I continue to do this thing, you know. So it's all really, really special. And yeah, I'm really, really happy and just feel good about being in Broken Hope now, you know. It's great. Yeah.
Right. And kind of like wrapping things up, Jeremy, I mean, kind of like another two-part questions, like being as it has been 5 years since Mutilated and Assimilated, have you started ideas for the next Broken Hope album, and pretty much what's next in terms of like touring and stuff?
This last year, all I've been doing is writing the new Broken Hope album. Damien is really sick guitar player too. He contributed to material musically on Mutilated and Assimilated, riff wise, you know, some great riffs. So he's been writing music too, with Mike, our drummer. So we already have, I think we've got over 12 songs, and the plan is this spring, hopefully, ideally I'd like to get in the studio in April or May and definitely record the new album for sure. No matter what, we're recording a new album in 2023. And then I think the only thing we have lined up right now is a possible 2-week run around September, late September, early October, from like the Midwest to the East Coast, Canada, and then coming back. And I'm sure there'll be more shows and appearances we're going to do. But right now, priority number one, man, new album from Broken Hope. It's already written. We just got to record it. So,
All right.
yeah.
So before we go, just want to thank you so much for this conversation, Jeremy. It's just great to talk to you. Is there any final words to close this out?
Yeah, I'd like to say, first off, Richard Thompson, thanks for hitting me up, man. I really appreciate you wanting to talk to me and pick my brain today.
Yeah.
It's really nice to meet you. And to anyone and everyone watching this, listening to this, just want to give everyone, as always, my sincere thanks and gratitude for your love of Broken Hope. All those fans that have stayed with us from the old days, all the new fans, and we're here to stay. And as long as I'm alive, keep giving people Broken Hope's brand of death metal. Like I said, you know, a lot of times gone by like that, you know, since our first album came out, but I'm writing new music as if I was still that pissed off 21-year-old in an apartment wanting to kill everyone with death metal. I'm still that same guy. So the new Broken Hope promises to be absolutely savage. And again, just thanks to everyone who has always supported and loved us, because we love and appreciate you all. And again, thank you, Richard, for the interview. Much appreciated. Good talk.
Sure thing, Jeremy. So everybody, Jeremy from Broken Hope. See you next time.